So we've got some early box office prediction numbers for Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. But will it actually hit those numbers, or is it going to underperform? Let's talk about that right now. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another movie news video. My name is Joker, and today we're discussing some box office predictions for Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, a movie that I've been waiting for oh so long. I'm so excited to get into this. So this is it. This is really it. The Skywalker saga is coming to a close with Episode 9, and from here on out, it'll be Star Wars films that are not related to the Skywalkers in any way, shape, or form, supposedly, but as of right now, the main story of Star Wars with the Skywalkers is coming to an official end, and with the fan base divided based on what has happened with The Last Jedi and from the underwhelming performance from Solo, A Star Wars Story, what are these box office numbers going to be looking like for The Rise of Skywalker? The box office numbers for this movie are going to be a little tricky, as you got to look at two things when looking at this. For one, is the movie just going to be good and perform well just because the story is good? Or is the negative reaction from the fan base going to cause this movie to drop below the expectations from Disney and Lucasfilm? Originally, the current projections were to be up there with The Force Awakens somewhere around the 250 million range. But as of this past week, new updated box office numbers have come out which are shocking because the numbers are so much lower. The current box office projections as of right now are showing that at the least amount we could see 175 million domestically for the opening weekend, with the highest point being 200 million. And I honestly think that's extremely low, and I think this movie is going to succeed well beyond that. But when compared to some of the other films, we had The Force Awakens, which came out in 2015 at $248 million domestically for its opening weekend. The next year saw Rogue One at $155 million, then The Last Jedi, which had $220 million, and then the disappointing opening for Solo that weekend with only $84 million. That was a really bad opening for Star Wars. And now as we're getting into the final conclusion to the Skywalker saga, it's making me wonder, how are these numbers going to look? Are we actually going to be within 175 to 200 range? Is it going to even be below that? Is it going to go above that? We really don't know. It's really just based off predictions. And a lot of the box office numbers in the past haven't necessarily been correct. A lot of them have been giving very conservative numbers, and that's exactly what this is. 175 million domestically for an opening weekend number for Star Wars, of all things, is a very conservative number. I think they're aiming low in hopes that it's going to go above that, and I really think it will. Now, I don't think necessarily that it's going to be something like Avengers Endgame, which had an opening weekend of 350 million, but I do think it's not going to be anywhere near Solo's 84 million, and I really don't think it's going to be around the 175 million range. Now, you can make the argument that it is the end, it is the final chapter, so more people are going to go see it so they can see the story come to a conclusion, but I don't know if you can. Sure, The Force Awakens had a really great turnout, but that was 10 years without Star Wars. Sure, we had the Clone Wars series, and we had some other books and games in between then, but between, 2005 and 2015, that was 10 years of no Star Wars on the big screen. We had the Revenge of the Sith, and then it was done. We had the original saga, we had episodes 1 through 6, we were done, that's all we were going to have. And then after a 10-year hiatus, we had the release of The Force Awakens, and everyone came back flooding into the movies to see this because it was a new installment in the Star Wars series that we had not seen yet. But now that a lot of the fans have seen it and the reactions have been fairly negative since The Last Jedi's release, who really knows what these box office numbers are going to look like? But I would lean on the side saying that because it is the final chapter in everything, this is the last of this trilogy and the saga as a whole, possibly the numbers are going to be a lot bigger. I do think it's important, however, and you need to really look at these when you're looking at these box office prediction numbers, is how past films have done in the series. And I think one of the most important things here is that you can't count this out. There was a big divide in the fan base with The Last Jedi. A lot of people didn't like the direction the film went. Some people did. Some people say it's all Rian Johnson's fault, that he's the worst ever, he should stay away from Star Wars. It's a big thing. Whether you like The Last Jedi or not, you understand that this is a big impact on The Rise of Skywalker. This film is following up on the events of The Last Jedi. They're connected, so you gotta figure out either you're gonna like it or you won't. And on top of that, you have the disappointing opening for Solo, A Star Wars Story. With only 84 million domestically for its opening weekend, the movie absolutely tanked, but it wasn't a bad movie. It was just left with a sour taste in people's mouths from The Last Jedi, the lack of promotional items for it at all, and it was just way too soon. tone. Those are just big issues they had with it, so obviously it's going to perform poorly. And because of all of this, Star Wars has been knocked down a bit, especially when compared to other movie franchises such as the MCU, which is a lot newer than Star Wars but has been around for just as long. But on top of that, it's also having movies that are just excelling at everything, especially like I just said with Endgame having a $350 million opening domestically. I don't think Star Wars is going to get to that point just yet, but I don't think this movie is going to underperform like everyone thinks it will, and a lot of people want it to. Now, of course, you have to remember that this is just box office tracking. They're tracking it to make 175 to 200 million based on ticket sales, which apparently have dropped 7% since last week, but I imagine that's only because, theaters are starting to fill up. There's not going to be as many seats left, so people are going to wait on buying tickets until the rush is gone, and then wait to see it the following weekend, the week after that. Even though I know ticket sales are going to drop drastically within the actual week of release, and then compared to the weeks that follow, but I have people telling me that they think it's going to be a 50% drop off with ticket sales after the first week, and I just don't think that's going to happen. But overall, 175 to 200 million, that's a very conservative number. And yes, box office tracking hasn't always been exactly accurate. And just in the past couple months, we've had movies that come out with very conservative numbers, but they spike well above their expectations, especially with Ford versus Ferrari. They had a conservative number that was very low. It exceeded expectations. And Frozen 2 blew it out of the water with what they were expecting to make. But on the opposite side of things, we also had a lot of big budget performance movies come out that did not meet their benchmark. They had very conservative numbers too, thinking they weren't going to make as much, but performed well below that, and it's kind of scary. Some of those movies being the Jumanji sequel, Terminator Dark Fate, and Charlie's Angels, which had a abysmal $7 or $8 million opening weekend. Absolutely terrible. However, the film only had a budget of about $27 million, so they'll at least make that money back, hopefully, but it was just absolutely dreadful for that movie that weekend. Now, if we take all of this information into account, it's a little hard to say exactly what we think the numbers are going to be, but it's always best to just take a guess and see what happens. I wouldn't be putting any money on this, of course, because I don't know if I'm going to win or not, but I do think that 175 to 200 million is just too low and they're being conservative. I really think that this movie is going to hit about 250, 260 million opening weekend. There are going to be people out there that agree with me. There are going to be people out there that say I'm insane for thinking it's going to make any money at all. And that's completely fine. That's the point. It's guessing. I'm not saying it's going to. I'm just saying I think it's going to. I would like to see it make that much. But only time will tell, and as the promotion for this comes out with all of the TV spots they're going to be releasing, and they're going to have their 10-day countdown of TV spots right before the movie is released. So let me know in the comments down below, what do you think? Do you think the movie's going to completely bomb at the box office? Do you think it's going to go well above expectations? Do you think it's going to have an opening weekend higher than Endgame? Absolutely not. But I mean, hey, if you think that, leave it in the comments down below. Let's talk about it. Is 250 too high? 250, 260 million is my personal bet. Do you think that's too high? Do you think it's too low? Do you think I'm just completely out of my mind for thinking you can make that much money? Let me know again in the comments down below. I want to talk about it. But until we get any more box office prediction updates, if at all, up until the actual release of the movie in 3 weeks, that is going to be it for this video, guys. Remember, if you like what you saw, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments down below if you want to see more movie news videos or if you'd like to see anything else. But until then, and as always, I will see you guys next time.